Alright, in this video we're going to be looking at input validation using try-catch blocks. And try-catch blocks can be used for several things. Some things require try-catch blocks, such as opening a file or an internet stream. But you can also use them for your own purposes if you want to. We're also going to be looking at input validation, and I'm going to be using try-catch blocks to handle my input validation for a phone number. So with all that being said, I'm going to prompt the user to enter a phone number. I'm going to get their input. I'm going to check that input and make sure it is a phone number. And so to get started, I'm going to create a scanner. And then I'm going to prompt the user to enter that phone number. I'll get their input and store it in a string called phone. And you always want to use a string when you're getting input that has to be validated. The only time you want to use ints or floats is if it's something that you're going to be doing math with or counting with. But if it's just information, even if it's a zip code or something that is a number, if it's just information, always use a string. Alright, now that I've got their input, I want to begin validating it. The first thing I'm going to do is wrap all of this in a try-catch block. We'll say try right here, and then I follow a try with a catch. Now, what we catch we will determine later on because we're going to write our own exception class, but for now we'll just continue with the validation. When I get a phone number, in this case I'm wanting 12 characters. I want the phone number to come in as 3 numbers, a dash, 3 more numbers, a dash, and then the final 4 numbers. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. I want something like this. So if this is the input I'm looking for, I have to look at that and determine what needs to be checked in order to make sure they have entered a phone number. The first thing we notice is that all the characters are digits except for these 2 dashes. And so I know I need either digits or dashes, and I know that the dashes will always be in the same place. And then the phone number will always be 12 characters long. So those are the things I'm going to check. And when you're validating something, especially something more complex like an email address, you just have to look at it and determine what all needs to be checked and build your validation checks based off of that. So the first thing I'm going to check is the length of the phone number. Is it 12 characters long? If the length is not 12, we're going to throw an error. And to throw that error, I need an error to throw. And so I'm going to write my own error, my own exception, and I'm just going to call it a bad input exception. I also need the word new there. Throw a new bad input exception. Now it doesn't know what a bad input exception is, so let's go up above here and lay that out. You could do this in a separate file if you wanted to. For my exception, I'm going to create a class with the name bad input exception. And that is going to be derived from the Java exception class. Inside here I want a string to hold whatever error message I throw. And you can put whatever you want in here, this is just me. And then I'm going to write a constructor to set that string based on whatever they did wrong. And to display my error, I'm going to override the toString method. And that's about it. Like I said, you could put more stuff in here if you wanted to, as you need it. But this is just the bare bones basics, and that will take care of what we need for this program. Now I've still got an error here because I said my constructor would take a string. And for that string, I'm just going to tell them that the phone number must be 12 characters long. Now for my catch block, I'm going to catch my bad input exception. And you can call it whatever you want. I usually just call it X. And we're just going to print out whatever that error message is. So system.out.println x2 string. All right, to continue validating, we know that it's 12 characters long now. The next thing I want to do is make sure that the 4th and the 8th characters are dashes. So if I've got my phone number here, I'm just going to make this a comment so I can look at it. And I want to check and make sure that this one and this one are a dash. So an if statement, if phone dot char at, and remember the array starts at 0. So I'm going to put a 3 there. I'm going to say if that does not equal a dash, and if the 7th character does not equal a dash, we throw an error. And I can put whatever string in here I want. Please use this format. Now I know I have dashes in the correct place. I know the phone number is 12 characters long. The next thing I need to do is make sure that all of these other characters are digits. And there's several ways of doing that. I could check each character one by one and then count the number of dashes, and as long as that number comes out to be 2, and as long as these are all digits, that would work, and that would probably be the shortest amount of code you could write. The other approach would be maybe to use 3 for loops. I could use a for loop to check these, and to check these, and to check these last 4. And that's a little bit drawn out, but it's probably the easiest to follow, so we'll go with that approach. I'm going to be starting at 0 for the first for loop. I'm going through 3. And that's going to check 0, 1, and 2, and make sure these are all digits. The isDigit function comes from the character class. And there's several functions you can look at. There's isAlphabetic, so that will check and see if it's a letter. There is isDigit, isLetter, which is almost the same as isAlphabetic, lowercase, uppercase, space character, a handful of other ones in there. But I just need to know, is this character a digit? And isDigit takes a single character. That's why we have to run a for loop. And that character is going to be phone dot, and we can use char at I, or we can use the toChar array and put I in brackets. I've already used char at, so I'll show you the other way of doing it. We can say toChar array, and that gives us the string as an array. And then we'll put brackets on the end there with our I inside of it. I forgot my if statement. So if this is the digit, If it is a digit, that's a good thing. So let's say if it's not a digit, then we throw an error. And so I'll just say it needs to be all digits. And this for loop checks the first 3 characters. And then we'll write another for loop. I'll just copy and paste and modify the numbers here. We're going to hop from 0 to 4. And we're going all the way to 7. And that's going to check these next 3. And then we'll paste one more time. And we're going to be starting at 8. And we'll go all the way to 12. And that will check the last 4. And I believe this is pretty much ironclad now. So let's test it out. Enter a phone number. Let's say I put in some bad information. It gives me my error message, so I know my try-catch is working. Phone number must be 12 characters long. But then it crashes, or it doesn't crash, but it ends. And so we need to run all of this in a loop. So I'm just going to put while true up here. And I'll wrap my whole program in a loop. Inside the catch block, I'm going to continue. And if you remember, continue restarts a loop. So if anything goes bad and I throw the error, the catch block is going to show the error, and then we restart the loop with continue. If we make it past the catch block and everything has gone well, we'll break out of that loop so we can end the program. All right, so let's try it again. Enter a phone number. I'll put in some letters. Must be 12 characters long. Let's see if I put in 12 letters. Must be all digits. So my try-catch is working perfectly. Let's see if I put in a valid phone number. And we move on. So it works just fine. And there's how you would write your own try-catch blocks using your own exceptions. And also that's how you can do your input validation.